Hi everyone, welcome to auto training. In my last video, we talked about how to regroup the data using Excel templates to generate BI publisher reports. Today, I'm going to talk about how to do this, how to regroup the data using the RTF template. So the template type is going to be RTF and the output could be either the PDF or the Excel. Okay, so today we're going to have a look at the requirements, and then based on this requirement, I'll talk about the data model, the how to do the SQL coding for this report, and then we'll have a look at the XML data generated from this data model, and then the last one is how to regroup the data in the template. Okay, we'll do this one by one. Now let me open the specification of this report. Here is how it looks like. We've got two sections. The parameters. We've got three parameters here: business unit, deposit type, and there's a period parameter. And below that is the output. Okay, so two sections. We need to print out the parameters first, and then the data. And in the data region, let's have a look at what are the fields. Guest name, which will be the flex field from the invoice transactions flex fields, and then transaction number, type, currency, and amount, date, something like that. Okay. So by the look of it, this is going to be at the transaction level, and it says the data source will be the credit memo. So this report only fetches the data from the receivables and only gets the credit memo data. So if there's a transaction and the number is 12345 and it's a credit memo, we will extract the data based on those parameters and put it here. It's got an original amount and an opening balance and ending balance. Okay, so those are the amounts, and there's a agent data field, and the rest of the fields are pretty much from the invoice transaction flex field. Okay, now we can understand the data structure of this report. Below this transaction lines, we can see that it's got some other lines which are the adjustment lines, which are applied to this transaction number. So let's say, for example, there are three lines here, three separate adjustments applied to this original credit memo, and then the three of them should be listed. And then up to the first transaction number, let's highlight. It goes to another one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is another group. And again, for this transaction, we need to calculate the original amount and work out the opening and ending balance, and then fetch the adjustments which are associated with this transaction and list it and put them there. Okay, so there's a 900 here, and since the opening balance for this transaction is minus 1000 and the adjustment amount is 900, applied in this period to this credit memo. So the ending balance will be the minus 100 for this credit memo. So this is the kind of the first section in this data area. And then there's a total here, okay? And in total area, it says the data will be summed by the deposit type and currency. So in this data sample, the currency is all the same. Okay, so let's focus on the deposit type. There are two deposit type here from the first two uh, transactions, DEP 0001 and DEP 0002. So the data will be grouped based on by the deposit type. So let's go to here. We can check the amounts. There's a 240. So the 240 is from this place, and we can say that it's grouped by the deposit type. For DP 0002, and if we go to the DP 0002 here, the adjustment is 900, and it goes here, and the data will be just straight away summed up. Okay, so this is how it works. So by the look of it, let's think about how to write the SQL for this report. The, the major data source will be, of course, the receivables transaction tables, and also it needs to be joined with the adjustment tables for the total. So there are two ways to do it. Either when we generate the data from the data model, we do the sum up. Okay. The other workaround is that we do not do this in the data model to work out the sums for all these numbers. We just do this in the template. Okay. So let's go back to the SQL. Here is how it looks like. Because this one is made up of two sections. The first one is actually the transaction itself, and then the other one is the adjustment associated with this transaction. So we can do this by introducing the union, okay? And I've come up with an extra internal field called line type, okay, and which will be actually used later on. So for the transaction, the credit memo itself, I call it TRX, okay. And the other one for the adjustments, which are associated with this credit memo, I call it ADJ, okay. And union them, and on top of it, I select the columns. Okay, after the SQL is done, let's have a look at how it looks like the data. Okay, it's G1, 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 G1. Right? And we've got two sample transactions here. The first one is credit with credit memo number on 1130 on 3546. Okay, the first two lines, and the other one is this one, ending with 88. And for the first credit memo, it's got one adjustment line. So if we scroll to the right, we can see this is the second line. This is the adjustment line. It's got the adjustment adjustment type. Yeah. And for the second query memo, it's pretty much the same. This one has got one adjustment line in this period. Okay, so this is how the sample data looks like. Now let's go to the template. This is how the template looks like. For the first part in this table, which is the first line here, the requirement is that the data needs to be grouped by the transaction. Okay, if we go back to the requirement, we can see that it's ordered, actually ordered by the grouped and ordered by the transaction number. Okay, and in each for each transaction, we always need to start with the credit memo itself, and then below it will show the adjustments. So there's an order, right? The order is always like the credit memo first, and then the adjustments, and then it goes to the next one, the credit memo, and then the adjustments. So here, what we do is that first of all, we need to regroup the data by the transaction number. Let's go to definition in this template. For each group, okay, we use the credit memo number, which is a transaction number here, to regroup the data, okay, and sort by the credit memo number. This is definition, and then we need to come up with the next definition for each current group, sort by the line type, and in the descending order, right? So remember, I talked about the internal data field here in the data model. This is why I'll give it a line type. So now let's move on to the total line. So let me go back to this requirement first. In this section, the data needs to be summed up by the uh, deposit type plus currency. So there are two things. One is the deposit type. The other one is the currency. So, so this is different from the data in this section, because in the above section, the data only needs to be regrouped by the transaction number, which is the credit memo number. But now in this area, it needs to be regrouped by both the deposit type and the currency. So let me go to the RTF template and show you how we're going to do this. So for this one, we need to do the same thing. So we need to regroup the data by the deposit type first. And now we need to come up with another definition and use the for each group again. But now it's based on the previous group, the data which is already regrouped by the deposit type, and now based on that, for this one, we need to regroup the data and then put the currency here. Okay, so now the data is regrouped twice by both the deposit type and the currency type and the currency. Okay, and now at the end of this line, we need to close this loop properly. Okay, so now this is end for each loop, and another one, if we have a look, it's end for each loop again. Okay, and now let's check the definition of all those uh, columns, the amount columns. How we're going to do this? So of course we're going to have to use the sum function here, and it's based on the current group. Okay, so which is the inner group, and in inner group we can find something called original amount, and we just group it. But one thing that we need to always pay attention to this in the RTF template is that, so let me show you on, let me go to the data. So let's say, for example, the original amount. And now in the XML file, there's a number here for this column. But now the next line, we don't have anything for this column. Okay, so it's a null. So it's like there's minus 8,000 here. And then the next line is null. There's nothing. Okay, so in this case, if we don't put something like this in a form field, and then it will error out. So this is something that could always happen when you do the RTF template, and it will take you, if you don't know this, it will take you quite a while to figure this out. Okay, so this is something that we need to pay attention to. The first thing is for the numbers. If there is null value, we should exclude the data from running when running the template. Okay, so and then the way we do it is something like this. Use the expression, okay, which shouldn't be null. So let's preview the data. Okay, see this in PDF. This is how it looks like. We've got two deposit types here. For the first one, the adjustment amount is of $50, and then here is 50. The original amount is this number, and then it's summed up here. And for the second deposit type, ending with 007, the opening balance is minus 8,000, ending balance is minus 6,000, and the adjustment here is 2,000. Okay, so the calculation is correct. We can also preview this in Excel. This is how it looks like. Okay, beautiful.